Hey guys, how you doing? So I hope that your first week went by great. We are going to go ahead and start doing review of chapter 2 now, heading into our second week of virtual learning. So just to give you guys a recap on what this week should look like for you. So this is today. We are uploading and we are watching right now the 2.1 to 2.3 video. You should be finishing up the ready to go on that goes with these lessons. On Monday, you're going to be watching the lesson for 2.4 to 2.7. I want to make sure that you're caught up on all the work that is due by Thursday. Sorry, down here. Okay, just be prepared for that. Now, you will have a quiz on Thursday over chapters 1 to 2. So that means you're going to be dealing with a quiz on solving equations and solving inequalities. Tuesday, we're going to be looking at a review again of chapters 1 to 2. So you should be working on the chapter 2 pretest, and that will also be due by Thursday. Okay? Wednesday, you're going to be working on your Khan Academy assignments. So that means the current units that we're in right now. So everything is already assigned to you. If you have not completed the equations and inequalities assignments, which are the lesson videos, quizzes, and unit test, you need to be completing that this week. Also, just so you know, Thursday is basically the end of our week because our weeks are going to go from Friday to Thursday in this math class. So Thursday, you're going to be again dealing with that quiz, and then we'll start back up again Friday, starting with chapter 3, okay? So we're going to go ahead and jump into chapter 2. Now, we're going to start with 2.1, which is your graphing and writing inequalities, okay? So let's say that I have an inequality that is x greater than negative 3. I want to go ahead and graph that. So I'm going to draw my number line. Do a couple marks here. I'm going to put negative 3 right in the middle, kind of mark it around. Okay, so first, after I draw my line, I need to look at the sign that I'm dealing with. I need to know what type of circle I'm putting on negative 3. Remember, if we are dealing with greater than or less than signs like these, that means that we're going to be putting a open circle over that number because that tells us that that number is not included in the solution set. Now, if it happened to have a line underneath it, so that means that it's a greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, that means that that circle would get filled in, but that's not what we're dealing with right now. Now, it tells us that x is greater than negative 3. That means that I'm going to be shading everything that is greater than negative 3. So that tells me that any number that falls greater than negative 3 would be a solution of this inequality, okay? Now, you may have to simplify an inequality before you can graph it. Take, for instance, we have 2 times 3 minus 5 less than k. So I need to first figure out what number I'm placing my open or closed circle on. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute this 2 to the 3 and the negative 5. Or what I can do is just simplify my parentheses first. So 3 minus 5 is going to give me a negative 2. And then I can do negative 2 times 2. Bring down my inequality and my k. 2 times negative 2 is going to give me a negative 4 less than k. So again, I'm going to draw out my number line. Got my marks here. And I filled in my number line. Now, I know that my solution is negative 4. I'm dealing with an inequality sign that's either less than or greater than. It means I'm going to put an open circle. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. Some of you may look at it as less than and you'll want to shade in that direction. But remember that when we're dealing with inequalities, we're reading it from the view of the variable. So if I look at it reading from the variable, I'm looking at k is greater than negative 4. So that means I'm going to be shading everything in this direction, okay? So that's where we are graphing your inequalities, okay? That's 2.1. 2.2 takes us to adding and subtracting inequalities. So that means that we're following our order of operations and our inverse operations to solve, okay? So let's start off with -1 less than m plus 4. Remember that our overall goal is to get that variable all by itself. So I need to move this 4 to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and do the opposite of what adding 4 is, which is subtracting 4. This should all look familiar from our lessons from chapter 1 that we just completed this week. So -1 minus 4 is going to give me an even further negative, so I got a -5 less than m. If I wanted to write it with a variable first, I can write the m. Remember that this sign follows my variable, and I get m is greater than -5. Okay, let's add a little bit more into there. Let's do one with some decimals. So I have x plus 2.3 is greater than or equal to 6.8. So right here, if I were to graph this, I'd be dealing with that closed circle over whatever my solution ends up becoming. So again, I want to go ahead and get this x all by itself. I need to remove this 2.3 and get it over there, okay? So I'm again going to do the opposite of what's there. So if I'm adding 2.3, that means I'm going to subtract the 2.3 from both sides. This gets canceled out. Let me move this down a little bit. So we get x greater than or equal to, and I'm going to subtract this like normal. So 8 minus 3 would give me the 5. 6 minus 2 would give me 4. So here I end up with a solution of x greater than or equal to 4.5. So that means that I'm going to go ahead and put a closed or filled in circle over 4.5 on my number line, and I'm going to shade that to the right. Now, let's go ahead and go into 2.3, which is the last lesson we'll go through for today. And that's going to be your multiplying or dividing solving inequalities, okay? So we're going to do a couple examples. So we have 3a less than or equal to 15. Now again, whole point of this is to get that variable all by itself. So I need to detach this 3 from it. So when you see numbers together like this, we all know that they are multiplying. So the opposite of multiplication is to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by that number 3. And I'm going to get a is less than or equal to 5. Simple enough, right? Now let's do one of those examples where we have to do an additional step when we solve. And I know some of you will know, some of you will figure it out right now. So we have 27 less than -9h. So again, I want to get this h value all by itself. Okay, it's my unknown variable I need to figure out. So again, I need to detach this number from that variable. So they're following that same thing that we just did where they're closely knit together. So that means they're multiplying, which means to get rid of it, we're going to divide. Now, here's that extra step that we need to remember. Whenever we are multiplying or dividing by a negative number, our inequality sign gets flipped. Okay? This has to happen because you've now changed the sign of whatever's on this side. So if I hadn't changed this, my inequality wouldn't make sense because any number I put in here wouldn't be greater than what's on this side. Okay? So let's go ahead and put this to where my variable's first. So again, I'm going to put the variable. My inequality sign follows the variable, and I bring that -3 down. All right, we're going to finish it off with a word problem, which I know you guys love all so much. Now, I hate when this eraser does this. We have notebooks cost $1.39 each. So I'm going to put that $1.39 right up here. What are the possible numbers of notebooks that can be purchased with $10? So that means I only have $10 to spend. That means that whatever notebooks I need to get has to be less than or equal to that $10. Can't be any greater than, because, sorry, whoop, wrong side. Whatever's on this side, so that 1.39 for every notebook has to be less than or equal to the $10, okay? So my amount of notebooks needs to calculate less than that 10. So again, I'm gonna follow my inverse operations and I'm gonna divide by the 1.39. So I'm gonna take that 10 and divide by 1.39. Now, this gives me a decimal, but we all know that we can't buy a fraction of a notebook. We have to buy the whole notebook. So I'm gonna put 7 here because it's 7.19, but the most notebooks I can buy are 7. So that means that my notebooks have to be less than or equal to 7, which means my possible combinations can be no notebooks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Any of those notebooks or any of those numbers could be a possible solution, okay? So you have to remember that, and you need to read those questions carefully, because those will be the types of questions that you'll see on your quiz that are your fill-ins. So they're not a multiple choice question, they're your short answer ones. So if I'm gonna be asking you for all the possible combinations or all the possible numbers you're dealing with when you're working with an inequality, you need to be able to list all of those together, okay? So that is all that we have for 2.1 to 2.3. Check back on Monday for 2.4 to 2.7, and I will talk to you guys then. Bye.